Our role with regards to ACJA, that's the Addition of Criminal Justice Act, is basically to facilitate and ensure its adoption in all the 36 states of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, including Abuja. So far, so good. As an organization, we have participated in terms of drafting of the laws, ensuring that the House of Assemblies get to hear the bill and see how it can be adopted. Of course, at the national level, the law has been adopted. Now, we're currently working with MacArthur Foundation. Even before MacArthur Foundation and us began to collaborate, we have been working with other agencies. For instance, like in Rivers State, the law had long been passed, even Lagos, before we started working with
Rivers State first, okay?
Rivers, Lagos, I don't know which came first, but I know that the laws had been passed before that, and I know that FIDA in those states played a role in the passage of the laws. First, we attend public hearings. We send in memoranda to ensure that certain issues that are gender-based, were covered by the laws. For instance, if you've ever read the law, you find out that prior to the ACJA, women could not take everybody on bail, but now women can do that. The Criminal Procedure Act and the Criminal Code did not specify on the issue of search. If a woman was arrested, a man could just frisk over her and, generally touch her in parts where he shouldn't. But with the new law, there's a limitation. You can't search a woman any longer. Basically, the law respects the privacy of women. And when you look at the issue of prosecution at the magistrate courts, prior to this time, we had laymen in the courts, policemen anyway, prosecuting matters. And even where FIDA was involved in the matter, and we, in terms of watching brief, you work with the police, you say, look, we think these are the questions you should ask the accused persons. But courtroom drama, you have all your questions, you start. The police never knew when to detour from those questions, because your questions should be based on the answers that are elicited from the accused persons. And they just go on, and you see us sweating and being confused because we are just there to watch brief. But now, they are no longer permitted to prosecute. Only qualified persons, meaning only lawyers, can prosecute. So it will not be a big deal for us to get fiats from the attorney generals of the various states, depending on the matter that is ongoing, to prosecute. So there are many innovations from this law that will benefit women and children. Most important, 18, if it's to give evidence in court, that will be done in private. It gives the child the privacy that the child deserves. Either though sometimes you walk into a courtroom and then you see a child, maybe 16, 15, sometimes even younger, giving testimony in court. Now, there are some judges that on their own decided that no, children would be evidence from children will be taken in camera. But there are some that do not even have, that is before the ACJA, but now it's a law. So whether you know or not, it's a law. And that is why I'm happy with the work we're doing with MacArthur Foundation, because it will enable us popularize the content of this law. Because you go to some police stations, they say that no, women cannot bail.
Say that and be sure you're.
Okay.
How does your work specifically relate to adoption and implementation? You said that of the ACJA. How does it relate to ACJA related trainings and research?
Yeah, our work relates to ACJA relating trainings and research, in the sense that prior to this time, FIDA Nigeria runs a continuing legal education scheme We have our accreditation from the Nigerian Bar Association. You know,
Legal accreditation.
sorry, continuing legal education,
Okay,
CLE.
legal education.
Yes, we have prepared a training manual already.
Wow.
In tandem with the National Institute of Advanced Legal Studies. We got some consultants, some are FIDA members, some are not, you know, to analyze the issues in the laws that concern women and children, and the general provisos that would also engender development of women, you know. So we have all that in place. We have the training manual. Now, what do we want to do? We're going to have a training of trainers. Assume that you're not even a practicing lawyer, but you're a lawyer, you're a member of FIDA, and somebody walks into the FIDA center, for instance, as we're in this office now, at least you'll be able to give good and sound legal advice. Now, after the training of trainers, our trainers will now go back to their localities to train our various branches, because we can't bring everybody to one place.
Right, yeah.
It's not going to work, you know, and of course the logistics will be enormous. So that's what we're going to do, and the first of the trainings is coming up next week.
Next week.
Yes, not in Abuja. So all our trainers will converge in Abuja, together with the branches, the northern branches. You know, they would have theirs firsthand, while the other zones will come to Abuja, train, and then they go back to their various zones to retrain our members. And we'll try, you know, the purpose for the training is for all of us to be on the same page, for everyone to know what the innovations of the ACJA are.
All right, thank you very much. I'm glad I asked to further expand on that. Now, how do you see your work serving to strengthen the ACJA architecture? How does it strengthen other ACJA-related anti-corruption work?
Yeah, you know, when we come to the matter, I'll start with the matter of corruption. When we come to the matter of corruption in Nigeria, there's one vital thing we always forget, and that is the fact that we do not even have the infrastructure to avoid corruption. Okay? Now the ACJA is there in place. One of the questions we must ask ourselves is whether the stakeholders that are supposed to implement this law have the adequate infrastructure to implement the law. Now, from the onset, we're not even supposed to be the ones to tell the police that, look, a woman can bail a suspect. You appreciate what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
This is something that from the time the bill was sent to the National Assembly, it's something that ought to have been known, and the police itself ought to have stepped it down to its members upon the passage of the bill. You would find out that in some localities where perhaps the ACJA has not been a front burner issue, that people will still be in the difficulty of bailing suspects. You all know what it takes to even get a surety for somebody that is under police custody. Oftentimes, money passes hands. You understand? But you know that when women are involved, the matter of money is not on the table. For a woman to get up and go to the police station to take somebody on bail, you would know that she's made up her mind that this is what she wants to do. So I believe that the introduction of this law would actually lessen the matter of corruption. Now let us go to the policemen that even prosecute people in the magistrate court. We know what goes on there. Oftentimes we're always so frustrated because for us to even get them to be on their case is a problem. If the accused person is a person of wealthy means or has means, it's always difficult to get them to court to do their work. The next thing you hear that there are no more witnesses. The next thing you hear that they want to settle out of court is to delay the matter, like elongate it and get the victim, get the victim frustrated, the courts no longer tolerate that.
Okay.
They say to you, it's day-to-day trial, okay? And they give you long dates, like they could give you 7 dates at a go. You understand? So that you prepare yourself for those 7 days. And when you come to court and you begin to whine and talk about delays, the court is not patient with you. And that is all possible because of the ACJA. That for me is a major achievement. And in fact, we have come back to the matter of infrastructure. The law also provides for interview with accused persons even when they're in the prison. So that the matter of there's no vehicle to bring them to court, you know, it's no longer should no longer be tolerated by the court. But that has not been finalized. Those are part of the things we are going to pursue under the implementation factor, you know, to ensure that whatever facility should be put in place for an accused person to appear on the screen in the court and for him to be cross-examined should go on, which is what the law wants. You understand? That's what the law wants, so that all this matter of the prison people, the security to bring them to court, they play all those games just to delay justice. And when you delay justice, that is huge corruption because somebody else is suffering somewhere, and you're using your own means to delay justice.
Okay, so we can say that this is an achievement over the past year.
Yes, there's a change in the courtroom. And the judges, I believe, are catching up quickly with the contents of the law.
Okay. How about over the past 3 years? Have even more improvements been made?
In the ACJA, the past?
Yes. Achievement like you have mentioned about the court orders and all that.
Yeah, the achievements are basically what we've talked about before. You know, that is what we've talked about. In some jurisdictions, like we said, the police no longer prosecutes.
Yeah.
Now you know that is why the project MacArthur Foundation is very brilliant, because some of these benefits are not applied in all the states of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. It's only applied in the states that have adopted this law. You know. So everybody it's not yet to huru for all the states. And I would say that there's one major thing I want to say, I don't think I talked about it, is the age of the child as defined by this law. You know, we've been going round and round the circles on this matter of age. Certain states, especially from the northern part of the country, do not want to adopt the 18 years limit that defines a child. And we know why they don't want to adopt it, because of child marriage, which is you know, the style in the northern part of the country. Even some northern states that are not really in the core north, like Para State, I think they took the age of they were in the Para artillery. What age did they take? 16?
16.
Yes, they took 16. Para 16, which is not appropriate. The appropriate thing is 18. And Nigeria has signed several documents adopting 18. You know, so this law again has also, the Child Rights Act is there, 18. The ACJA has also talked about 18. So you find out that because of that age limit, it will be difficult to adopt this law, just that single reason. And the matter of women taking people on bail, it will be difficult to adopt this law in certain states in the north. You know, so that is one huge thing, one huge barrier that we are carrying over how to go over, you know, like how to, you know, like overcome the barrier.
So what do you see as key challenges to further achievement? I think that's just what you need.
Yeah, you know, they start and then maybe I would round up.
Yeah.
You already dealt with the questions. Because of religious
sentiment,
particularly.
You even gave a very good example.
Yes.
Yeah. are the key people or organizations limiting progress in effective adoption or implementation of the ACJA? And how deep is their resistance?
Well, so far so good. Who are the key players? There's the court system, the bar, the police, and then attitude of the people. Okay. Now there's something about women. I'll start with women. Up till now, if you tell a woman that she can bail somebody, she'll tell you no.
I don't want to be involved.
I don't want to be involved. Or she'd say no, my husband will not accept. Or she'll say no, if the person jumps bail, they will come for me. You know? So that in itself is resisting the provision of that law to the extent of its implementation. You understand? And the joy that we thought it would bring to women. So you find out that out of 100 women, perhaps only 2 or 3 might be courageous enough to take somebody on bail.
Yeah.
That's one aspect of it. Another resistance we talked about is the matter of the age for children. I've explained that previously.
Yeah.
You'd also look at the court system. As a lawyer, a practicing lawyer, I always notice the close relationship between the prosecutor and the clerk of court. You know, I'm sure you've noticed that.
Yes.
That police prosecutors are always very close to the clerk of court.
Okay.
Now that lawyers are taking over everything, it might not be so. You know, most magistrate courts, what do they do? Criminal matters mostly. When you look at a magistrate court's cost list, the criminal matters could be 15. The civil matters could just be 4. You understand? So you had the prosecutors, the laymen prosecutors, sit in those courts every day handling their matters. And there used to be great cooperation. Because when you ask for exhibits, very handy. Because the prosecutor is like a staff of the court.
That's right.
But you see, there will be that disconnect now. No lawyer worth his salt to be sitting in a magistrate court from morning till night.
No.
You go in, you do your matter, and you move on to another thing. So you might find out that when you ask for exhibits, the registrar is looking all over the place. You know, because you're not working closely like those ones. And you know what that close working means. You know, so those are some things I envisage. I haven't experienced it. But some young lawyers have complained about it. They're always careful as to whom they carry out their... Because if you do that to me in court, I'll just embarrass you there. You know. So those are part of the things that we think that would... and then, you know, for the bar to also rise up to their responsibilities in terms of taking up fiats and prosecuting matters. I see a challenge. I see a huge challenge there. I see a huge challenge. Because, let us face it, when you go to the magistrate court, you know the kind of matters you hear about. Somebody stole somebody's goat, for instance. Somebody stole somebody's pot of soup. Which lawyer is going to be good to prosecute? You appreciate, but the good thing is that there is an answer. The police has lawyers in their midst.
Yeah.
So they will keep filling in the gap. You know, they'll keep filling the gap. But even though the lawyers, so the police has to employ more lawyers so that they fill in that gap.
All right, ma. Thank you very much. Move to next. What other barriers may be impeding effective ACJA adoption for some states and its implementation where it has not been adopted? And this barrier we're talking about may not be corruption related, maybe organizational structure, maybe lack of available professionals, geographical availability of media in the area. Like, what other external?
Check it out, join you.
Well, I think basically the major issue is just probably religious sentiment and then cultural beliefs. Because there are some areas that they believe that women should be seen and not heard. So in that kind of area, you will not expect a lady to go to court or to go to the police station and say she wants to take somebody out on bail. So basically, but I think the framework, because during the time that it was to be passed in Ekiti, we were invited stakeholders. We had a meeting and then we rubbed mind and we saw that, well, ACJA is a way forward when it comes to criminal issues, and we all adopted it. But you know, the religious sentiments are still there, that a woman is supposed to be seen and not to be heard. And that's cultural sentiment. But I think we that were enlightened, we are coming out of it. And as we continue to be at the forefront, those other ones will surely join us.
Okay.
And in
And
addition to
okay,
that,
go on.
um, there is lack of political will generally
Yes.
from our politicians. Maybe probably because they don't know the gains or the benefits of adopting this act. I think we need to educate our legislators more on what they will benefit when they adopt this act in their states. The good thing about this act is that if you fail to play your own role in the corridors of criminal justice, it makes you a criminal.
That's right.
If you're supposed to do something and you don't do it, you are a criminal.
Yeah, and sexual after the fact makes you a criminal.
Yes.
Okay. Now I wanted to ask Oyinade, who is from Ekiti. Now in your own state, who was in the forefront of the law?
It was the Attorney General thing.
Very good. That's what I want. The point I want to make. Because even in Rivers State, the bill came from the Ministry of Justice. You know, pushed by the Attorney General. So for me, the best practice for the adoption of this law is that the various state ministries of justice all across the nation, those that have not adopted the law, should push the law forward. That's the only way we can achieve this. Because like Ifeanyi had said, the legislators do not even understand the benefits of this law to the society. You understand?
Yeah.
If they understand the benefits, the legal departments of the various houses of assemblies will generate this bill without any push, you know. But the Attorney General of the state, when you look at the Constitution and you see his responsibilities, they should actually push this bill to this. And you know, once the executive brings the bill, and it happens in a state where there's harmony between the executive and the legislature, in 3 months, 4 months, the bill will be passed into law. You know, so that's one of the major things we are suggesting, that the ministries of justice, which is the executive, should push this bill.
All right. In what ways do these barriers affect the anti-corruption program or results your organization is trying to achieve?
The barriers, definitely, that we had mentioned will slow the pace of what we want to achieve. What we want to achieve is the quick and speedy dispensation of justice. So when you have clogs in the wheel, of course, sometimes you get to a point where you'll be totally frustrated and you're not able to move any step further. And that is why we're talking about all the things we have said. Those are barriers. If they can be removed, the wheel will spin better, smoother, for the benefit of our people. Like I always say, even the clerk that takes a file away, and during court sitting, the court says, "Where is the file?" And the clerk says, "I can't find the file. My lord, I went to the file bank and the file is not there." That is corruption, even when the file is there. Even the prison officials that come to court and say there is no vehicle, when there is vehicle, that is corruption. And again, you know, the law also places a lot of responsibilities on the judiciary. It says every 30 days or every 3 months, certain reports should be made to certain quarters on matters that have been handled.
Quarterly returns.
So that presupposes that the system expects you to start a case in January, a criminal matter, and by April you're done with it. So if you don't do that, that is also criminality. But the point is this. The point is this. I know that they have the NJC, they have the JSC at the state levels. We need to get them to focus on this. Their mind probably are not even working towards the fact that, look, criminal matters, we should get reports at when due. You understand? To check, so that if a judge is handling a criminal matter for more than 3-4 months, you should be asked, why is this matter still lingering? You know, our people do not believe in our Nigerians don't believe in our criminal justice system. You know, so there's a need to awaken all these institutions that ought to implement the law to their responsibility. You appreciate what I'm saying? To their responsibility.
Yeah.
If you don't awaken to their responsibility, then the whole thing is useless. No matter how we popularize, no matter how, that's why I said we need to build strong institutions. Strong institutions. People should know what their responsibilities are.
Okay, thank you very much. Now, how much of your work, what you do here in FIDA, is to provide at their request technical training and research support for governments or other entities? Like, to what extent do you support and provide requests, maybe petition by the legislative body to maybe do a training, do anything around facilitating that job?
Okay. As I speak to you, I know that the Nigerian Bar Association is also working on ACJA with MacArthur Foundation and other LEDAP.
Center for Social Legal Studies.
Exactly. They're all law related.
Nigerian Institute of
Advanced Legal Studies. The Nigerian Bar Association.
That's NELS, right?
NILS, yes. As you can see, our first training manual we developed with them.
Okay.
Yes, we worked with them because we know that they have the capacity for trainings, you know, and so where
That's with the NB, the Nigerian Bar.
no, the NILs,
Yeah.
NILs, the training institute. It's a Nigerian Institute of Advanced Legal Studies.
And even NDA.
And even NDA.
Send a copy
Of this to them.
so that they put on their site for lawyers that need.
Because once you open this book, you have all the innovations in it. You have all the innovations, the new things, what people should know. So it's like a guide, you know, for any lawyer. It's a handbook any lawyer should have, you know. So we are doing our best to network with all the relevant organizations, stakeholders, to ensure that we popularize the innovations and to ensure implementation. So we are like watchdogs in society. If we see that any group is not doing well, we visit you.
Okay.
It's not, we don't have the power, the executive power, you know, to carry out any disciplinary measure. But I believe advocacy visits would assist. It has come to our notice that this is not going on well, and then we think you should put it right. For instance, there was an advert on TV, on AIT, and I think some of the DSTV stations recently, on the Bama mayonnaise. Did any of you see it? Bama mayonnaise, where in their bid to tell people that the mayonnaise is very good, they put up a storyline. A child came to school with another child.
Okay.
One of the children had the Bama mayonnaise, you know, laced in her bread or in his bread.
His bread.
And that was very interesting. That child didn't have the privilege of having Bama mayonnaise in her bread or in his bread. I think they are both boys.
Okay.
And then the other child offered the sandwich to his friend. He ate it the first day. Now the second day, because he didn't have the mayonnaise on his bread, the child that benefited. When his friend asked him, "Where is your lunchbox?" He said, "No, that he forgot it. He hid it. He hid it and then lied that he forgot it." Now it looks interesting, but it is not. You're teaching our children to lie. So I made frantic
that's the
efforts.
message. It's very clear.
I made frantic efforts to get our people here. I live in Port Harcourt, to come see the Nigerian Broadcasting Commission, speak to them. I did a letter as well, which I had sent to them way back in December, that they should withdraw the advertisement from the television, because morally it's wrong. I even have it. I have the YouTube version of it.
You've seen it,
but they've withdrawn it.
You didn't watch it.
Okay,
They've withdrawn it, but you see, I've not seen it again, and I've asked people that watch out from it, and they say it's no longer there. But they never responded to our letter. They never informed us that, oh, you know,
They are addressing the issue.
yeah, because we even reeled out provisions of the law which enables them to intervene. We went that far so that they don't even need to look at their law books to think of how to engage AIT or all the stations that put it up. We made everything easy, but they never got back to us. All I noticed that they just withdrew it. And you see, that's the Nigerian system. And they ought to even penalize those stations by the law. So that is the corruption we're talking about. It's not when you hear somebody has given 2 billion, 10 billion. That's not that. If you can tackle these issues, nobody will steal 10 billion. You understand?
Yeah.
The enabling environment will not be there to steal the money. These people at the lower cadre of work, they are very, honestly, very, very corrupt. So I'm just giving an example of the kind of thing. So like now, I don't have an executive here to say, look, NBC, unless if I want to wear my full armor of war, and then I go and report them to some executive, and then we keep, and that way I'm dissipating my energy, because you don't even know what that executive.
All right, thank you very much. However, I don't want to forget. I'll look at the training manual.
Okay.
And maybe thank you. In your view, what do you think CSOs or government actors should be doing now to reduce corruption in the CG sector?
Inade, what do you think?
Well, I think it's everybody that should be working towards the reduction of corruption, because it's biting very hard, and it seems we are not going anywhere. Like in the ACJA, there's a provision that says cases should not start de novo anymore. And you know, who can buy justice?
Sorry, say that again.
The cases should not start de novo.
You know, like you know what de novo is? Okay, explain what de novo is.
When a judge is transferred, notwithstanding the extent you have gone in the case, you start all over if another judge comes in. And that is only rich people that can buy justice. So if you take me to court, probably you are not of good means, I can always delay the case until you get fed up, and then you withdraw from the matter. But now in this case, now if a judge is transferred, you continue from where it stops, and then it's just a maximum of 5 adjournments for each side. So that means there will be quick dispensation of justice, so that nobody will be able to buy cases anymore. So I want to encourage CSOs that when we see cases like that in court, because there are sometimes really you cannot help granting the adjournment if you're on the bench. There are some instances, and I'm sure if a query is raised, the judge can always explain, or even the magistrate. But I think that provision of the law has gone a long way to curb even justice in how they grant adjournments anyhow. Do you understand? Because you have a maximum of 5 on both sides, and if you must exceed that, there must be a good reason. So organizations should be on the lookout where some of these judges err, so that they quickly raise it, and then the necessary organizations can step in to curb such.
Agreeing with Oyinade, I want to say that CSOs should act as watchdogs.
Okay.
There's a matter going on in Port Harcourt now. You remember the girl that was killed?
Yes, by that uncle.
By the uncle and supposed uncle. Yes, a little girl. Now, first and foremost, when he did the dastard act, he ran from Port Harcourt, yes, to somewhere in Plateau State. But the police picked him up in Plateau State. Now, the only reason the police became very active was because civil society began to protest that he must be arrested. Now he was arrested, brought back to Port Harcourt, and charged to court. Now, the Attorney General of Rivers State has taken it upon himself to do the prosecution by himself. Now, FIDA was about to apply for a fiat to take over that prosecution. Now, the Attorney General is handling the matter together with the DPP of the state. In fact, any day that matter is coming up, you think there's one big political issue going on. But that's the kind of attention we want to such cases. FIDA goes each time the matter comes up with at least 10 members to watch brief.
Wow.
You understand? And the judge, in fact, everybody's on a tightrope. It's day-to-day trial. Because FIDA is watching, and there are other organizations. Now, Watch is watching too. Medical Women is watching. Do you understand? So, if CSOs stand up to their responsibilities, and when matters of that nature are announced in court, they get up and say, "My lord, you talk to the lead prosecutor," and he will say to the court that, "My lord, FIDA is watching brief." They get up and they take a bow. Medical Women is in court. You understand? Okay, you can only announce lawyers. At least announce all the lawyers in court. So that even the court, the accused person, know that this is serious business. The defense counsel knows that I'm in trouble. You appreciate what I'm saying? Because everybody, civil society is watching brief. So that is one role civil society has to play in terms of achieving speedy dispensation of justice.
For each state, what actions do you take to encourage states to adopt or appropriately implement ACJA or some versions of the ACJA?
That's what I believe we've answered that before.
Yeah.
When we spoke about
Actions
our continuing legal education program, we spoke about our next national executive meeting where states converge and we share all our experiences. At our last annual general meeting, Mr. Ifeanyi here, Iloba, had shared some of this with our branches. And in fact, in our meeting, we're going to have a meeting in April. And we're going to speak to the branch that is going to host the meeting, that the theme of the meeting must be related to ACJA. So that we'll have our training session just on that. Even if you haven't adopted in your state, begin to know what ACJA is talking about. After all, some of us practice across jurisdictions. I can come from a state where the law has not been adopted, but somebody could give me a brief and the person is residing in a state where the law has been adopted. So no knowledge is lost. Whilst you are struggling to adopt, know the content of the law. You know, and if you know the content of the law and its benefits, you want to participate actively in the adoption of the law. So that's what we do in FIDA. We have 33 state branches, and I can tell you that all the state branches know something about ACJA, including the northern branches.
In addition to what she has said, in this particular project, apart from the training that we have for our FIDA members, we are also going to do a network of the judges, the lawyers, and the law enforcement officers working in the criminal justice sector, so that they will now, try to develop an action plan that will create a platform for them to be working together, so that everybody will ensure that each other plays its own role very well. And we also offer, like she has pointed out several times, free legal assistance and representation on cases surrounding this ACJA, especially as it affects women and children in Nigeria.
And flowing from what he has said, what is important is that in the formation of this network, we now have focal persons in all of these organizations or all these stakeholders that you can call once you think something is going wrong. Like whoever is representing the police, if something is going wrong, we quickly make our report to him. If the police also notices that there's something FIDA ought to have done that they didn't do, they have a focal person to call. You have somebody to hold responsible.
Okay, thank you. Now, in what ways do you coordinate with people within the criminal justice system?
I just told you that. The network.
Other CSOs too. You do that through that. How about the media and journalists?
Yes, the media is part of our co-grantees. Yes, they're there.
We'll be working with them.
And yes, they're part of it.
Okay.
Makato has done a good job to identify different groups that will ensure the implementation or adoption of this law.
So for the media, if they see any case, any corruption case,
They
that they
draw our
feel that
attention.
yes, they draw our attention.
Okay. All right. Where do you get your data to develop advocacy materials and around these issues?
Yes, we've been working with women for so long, and FIDA Nigeria, through her branches, has understood the peculiarities of the various states that she works in. And we have been interacting with them by way of going to court for them. And like I said, we've understood our limitations through the years. You know, we've spoken about some of those limitations when it comes to women and children. And so through the years, we've gathered data
From individuals.
from individual women. Yes, we've you know, based on the kind of cases that we handle.
Okay.
You understand what I'm saying? Based on the kind of cases that have come to us. For instance, in some states of the Federation, nobody comes to FIDA to say, I want to be circumcised. But in some states, they run to us to say, look, there's this first thing that's going to happen to me very soon, and I'm being forced to be circumcised. Now, in the various branches, circumcision is a criminal offense in some states. Like in Rivers State, it's a criminal offense. But just last week, was it last week? To mark,
Yes, last week.
it was last
Monday.
week, yes. To mark the elimination of violence, zero tolerance to FGM. We had to go to a locality called Abua to sensitize. It's Abua, it's a local government area in Rivers State. To sensitize the people. It's a criminal offense, but we're still sensitizing and popularizing the law. Now you may ask, and that law is about 7 years old. Now you may ask, why are we still popularizing? Why are we still sensitizing? I'll give you the answer. The culture of silence of the woman. Even the woman that has run to me to protect her will not allow me mention her name. Talk less of reporting the matter to the police. Do you understand? So how do I prosecute? These are limitations. How do I prosecute? She would say, please don't call my name. I don't want to be ostracized. So what have we done now? Now that we know that that is the problem, we've gone to the locality to begin to talk to the chiefs and the women. It is the women that bring the razor to circumcise the girl child. It's not the men. So we're asking them, why do you continue? We are aware that you're the ones that do it. Yes, the girl child has not called you specifically because she doesn't want us to start a chain reaction of arrest, prosecution, and imprisonment. You understand? So some of these practices continue. I just had a nasty experience from circumcision. You know, a girl was in labor and I happened to be there, and you know, like I'm her auntie and all of that. And they said, oh, please, madam, come into the room. And they were asking me, why did you say? I said, me, circumcise you. No?
At the point of delivery?
Yeah, because it affects. You're not able to stretch as much as you should stretch. And that is why it's a criminal offense. All you even have is that where you are circumcised, you just tear. You understand? And then, you know, whereas if you were let alone, you'd probably have your baby naturally.
Yeah.
I'm just going to this to show you
How?
how frustrated we are. This law was passed a long time ago, and FIDA Rivers State Branch pushed this law. We drafted, we pushed it to the assembly, we gathered all the relevant partners to submit memoranda to ensure that it was passed. But I keep saying that several years after this law was passed, nobody has come to make a report, but the practice continues. So that culture of silence is a huge barrier for women. But again, do I blame them? I don't. You want a woman to make a report to you. Where does she live? Under the roof of the people she's reporting. She has no economic empowerment. She has nowhere to go to. So basically, I still lay the problem on the states of Nigeria. If we had shelters, if we had alternatives, if we could gainfully employ these women, they will speak up. But they shut their mouth because they don't have an alternative. So that's one thing for there to be speedy dispensation of justice. That has to be worked on. Providing shelters for. Now, haven't you heard of where we people in court, a mother will get up, her daughter was raped, and she will say we want to settle out of court.
Yeah, you ask her to keep quiet. Stigmatization.
That is that. But again, even where she's not worried about stigmatization, in fact, mostly in the matter of incest, where the father has probably taken 3 of the daughters she has and messed them up, and she'll be telling me, where do you want me to go to? What do you want me to do? He's the breadwinner, he's training them. Madam, so why did you report? Do you understand? These are issues that get in the way of the speedy dispensation of justice, and in fact get in the way in the general administration of the criminal justice system. We are our own problem.
Yes.
Our own problem.
Alright, thank you for even having good pimples along the stories. For states not yet adopting the ACJA, what do you know about model anti-corruption laws or policies that incorporate critical aspects of the ACJA that is being advocated for use in the states? Any other model?
You have the Criminal Procedure Act, you have the Criminal Code, you have the CPC, Criminal Procedure Code in the north. You have all
act
this
somewhere is code. Criminal Procedure Act.
Criminal Procedure Code. In the north you have the code, in the southern part you have the act, and then you have the Criminal Code too. You know, you have other laws like I talked about FGM. It has criminality in it. You have penalty for you have the Harmful Traditional Practices Law in some states where laws have been made to protect widows or widowers, as it may be. You have several small. The Child Rights Act also has punitive measures. So it's not like the states are left bare without laws. You understand? But if you notice at the beginning, I tried to bring up some of the innovations of the Criminal Justice Act of the ACJA. You know, these innovations basically, the ACJA, what it has done is to marry the CPA and the CPC, marry all the laws together into one book, and then have certain sections that will address issues that those laws did not address. You understand? And most importantly, ensuring the speedy dispensation of law by including that you cannot give 5 adjournments, you cannot do a criminal matter for longer than a particular time. You understand what I'm? Those are the things. So every state has something. The question is, with the something they had, how did they fare?
So how much of your work involves monitoring what the governments or other key stakeholders say they are doing about adopting and enforcing ACJA?
Yeah, because some states that have not adopted the law are also involved in the program or the project we are doing with MacArthur Foundation. We believe that it's an opportunity, to, first of all, we're eliciting information from them on why have we not adopted. What are the issues? Is there a bill even before the House of Assembly? If there's a bill, what is delaying the process? And so we'll work on it. One key thing about MacArthur Foundation is that you're not allowed to lobby. You're not allowed to lobby. If it was with some other organizations, what we normally do as female lawyers is to first get the interest of the First Lady of the state. Get her interested in the project, and see how you can facilitate things. But in this case, everything about MacArthur is open. You don't go to dinners because of a law that is not allowed. So the real sense of lobbying is out of the picture. So everything has to be fought unless another organization is pushing. You understand what I'm saying? So basically, we are analyzing what their problems are and looking for ways to resolve them.
And in addition to what she has said, in the MacArthur project, project, one good thing about it is that they encourage collaboration among all the stakeholders working to adopt and implement the act. So we have a platform where we come together, we ask you, okay, you're working towards adoption, what are you doing towards adoption? This is what we are doing.
Okay.
How do we marry our efforts to amplify the impact you are going to make?
And even going further, with the meeting we plan to have next week, the training meeting, would have our branches around, and they would all express their limitations, and other branches that have succeeded would prefer solutions to them on the floor of the meeting.
All right, thank you.
Oh, this thank you, Anna.
How are you advocating for implementation monitoring committee as part of the ACJA adoption policies and practices?
The PICs that were set up
Okay.
in the various states.
And what's that?
We're implementing project implementation committee. We are working right now with 14 states, but this morning we decided to informally include the 15 states. The law has just been passed in Kogi State.
Okay.
Okay, so we are thinking of how we can engage Kogi, the FIDA branch there, so that yes, no funds provided for them, but let's see how they can at least benefit from whatever training that we would have for our pilot states. So in doing that, the PIC in those states understand that part of their work is to watch the implementation where necessary, monitor how far it's been implemented, because in all these states we are going to have this network of the police, the bar, and the bench. You understand? So, and they are expected to take off on their own and have meetings, collaborate, network with other CSOs that are relevant to ensure that the ACJA is fully implemented. So that's what we intend to do.
Okay. Who is included in this implementation monitoring committees? Who are the members? Are there CSO members? Are they members of the public?
Yes, MacArthur Foundation is working with several organizations, all the stakeholders, like Ifeanyi had said earlier on.
Are members of the ACJA monitoring committee?
Yes, yes, in their various organizations.
Okay.
In their various organizations, they all have project implementation committee, which is because the PIC was set up because of the ACJA adoption or implementation. Okay. So basically that you're supposed to monitor whatever is happening. That is what we've told our own PICs, and I believe because we are all collaborating, we say the same thing in our various organizations.
All right. For each state that is adopting ACJA-like legislations, what are key changes in practices that have occurred in state of criminal justice system since adoption?
We've told you.
Okay. Specifically, have they included the essential, unifying, and progressive elements?
The ACJA laws in the various states.
Yes.
They're almost all uniform. They are almost all uniform. Almost all uniform. Yes, it's an adoption, and when you are adopting a law, you take the act, okay? You take the act, and everything flows from the act. That is why the northern states do not want to take the act and allow the matter to flow. Okay. Yeah, because they know that they cannot.
Pick this
and drop that. Yes.
How about state monitoring committees monitor and report on state compliance to the version of their ACJA? Do they report the monitoring committee
from the states?
Yes.
What report to who now? Who are they supposed to report to?
Okay, if you're working on it, where you said adopting key changes. Do CSOs, okay, let me recap the question again, have information about the work of state monitoring? Do they get feedback? Are they able to know what those monitoring
what we've said to you is that basically in our own work, networks are going to be formed.
Okay.
Now it's this network that will get feedback from.
Networks.
You understand? Now these networks are made up of the relevant stakeholders. The judiciary is there. The bench is there. Sorry, the bench is the judiciary. Yeah. The bar is there. The police
Law
is part of
enforcement,
it.
both
Law
police,
enforcement, that's
civil
it.
defense,
Civil defense, all of them. Prison,
prison
yes.
warders,
Prison warders, they are
everybody
all
will be in
there.
that sector.
So it is from them that we'll get all this. And then don't forget that the law makes provision for the judiciary to make reports on their cases, criminal cases, within a certain period of time. Then secondly, it also has provisions for the police to keep a register where they will record all criminal cases entered within a certain period of time. And all this will be available to the public or any CSO that wants to collect or get any data from them.
Okay.
These are mandatory provisions in the law.
All right. Do you know if state prosecutors prosecute more cases, including corruption cases, according to ACJA standards? Can you say they comply?
Yes, because like we said earlier, most of the ACJA laws were initiated for adoption by the Ministry of Justice. And the state prosecutors you speak of are law officers of the Ministry of Justice. I'm aware that most states have trained their law officers in the public prosecution departments, so that when they go to court, they are able to flow with the provisions of the ACJA. And that is what FIDA is doing. That is what MBA is doing. In fact, in Rivers State, we had 2 years ago, I remember about December 2 years ago, we had our law week was about the ACJA because it had just been passed. And so the MBA took it upon itself, not with funding from anybody, MBA Port Harcourt brand took it upon itself to discuss the content of ACJA. They brought in judges, they brought in law enforcement agencies, they brought in the prison official, they brought in everybody. You know, so some states are even miles ahead of other states. And other people are emulating and learning and, you know, trying to. That's why I'm from Rivers. I have no difficulty knowing the content of the ACJA. And that is what we want for our own members. That is why we are doing training. That is why this manual was produced. And that is why we are going to step down the content of this manual to our members and tell them about what we expect from them. Because eventually, it is from this training and from our members that we will pick focal persons that will be members of this network that we are forming. That will not have to come back to our meetings to report to us on what is going on amongst the network, what challenges they are facing, and what is the impact of the law on society. You know, the law is new. People are still, there's so many laws that don't even know what is in the ACJA. So we are still popularizing it. So to begin to analyze or know the impact is still a bit early. But I can assure you that it's catching up gradually.
Okay.
And the more lawyers move from jurisdiction to jurisdiction, when they find out that they don't have the same provisions in their locality, when they go back, they will agitate for it. Because it has a lot of benefits. Imagine where you can plan yourself and know that, look, 5 adjournments this way, 5 adjournments the other way. We are preparing written address, judgments on ground, you know. So those are the, and this law will also prevent frivolous cases from going to court. You know, in Nigeria, we always, sometimes some of the cases are frivolous. There are political cases in quotes. So when you see that, when the judge goes according to the law, and you don't have any witnesses, you don't have any statements, you just brought somebody to court because he made some, well, how do they put it? What are those statements? There's a way they call it. He's not politically correct. You arraign the person in court. They do it. You are arraigned in court. That's why some cases 2 years, not one witness has entered the witness stand. If they go according to the ACJA, they will throw out such cases.
Sure.
And we will not have you know, such things going on in the country.
Thank you. We'll soon be rounding up, but there are a few important questions I've been taking and trying to see which one we can speak. Do fewer, in states now, do fewer corruption defendants delay their proceedings through the use of interlocutory appeals?
I think so, because the courts are not tolerant. I think fewer people do it now.
Sure.
You must have very good reason for the court to grant you an adjournment in a criminal matter.
Okay.
We must have very good reason.
All right. So, in your view, which individual or group of individual has the change affected most directly?
The change has affected the judiciary, the bar, the bench has affected them.
Yes.
It has affected the bar as well. We don't go to court with frivolous reasons on why we don't want to do our matter. You know,
The society.
and the society is benefiting from it.
And in your own view, how much and how well is the federal government considering and or debating anti-corruption laws and policies? That's your own personal view.
How well?
The federal government considering or debating anti-corruption laws and policies.
I think when it comes to anti-corruption laws and policies and its implementation, the federal government is doing okay. The ACJA, for instance, stemmed from the federal government, and then we are now adopting it in the various states. The EFCC, the ICPC, the whistleblower policy are all enactments of the federal government.
So they are doing well, okay?
In terms of legislation,
And then
the problem is the implementation.
okay, in terms
We still have a problem with implementation.
so how much? Okay, we talked about that already. Okay. In your own view, what are the strengths of the way you have been implementing your own on Nigeria? This work with MacArthur. What are the strengths in the way you have been implementing your own?
Well, the strength we've had is that basically it has brought a platform where, as an organization, we can sit down and discuss changes, innovations to a law. If we were not working with MacArthur Foundation, yes, we would try to popularize it, but not in the organized, formal setting that we are popularizing this law. We will not be able to perhaps develop training manuals, organize trainings for our members. And you know, this training we are giving to our members is not just for FIDA work. Some of us are private practitioners. Let me use myself as an example. If we didn't have this project, I'm not a criminal lawyer. I don't normally do prosecutions. I do civil cases. I wouldn't have taken the pain to look at the ACJA and the nitty-gritty of its contents. Perhaps as a woman lawyer, I would have campaigned, allow women to bail, allow that, but because of the fact that this is something that's on the table of FIDA today, I've taken the pains to go through all the sections, look at its benefits. I've even seen things that could be improved on maybe later, you know. So it is very beneficial to us. And then you can imagine for our members that are law officers in the various ministries of justice. You understand? They're not going to use it for FIDA. They're going to use it in the promotion of their own work. You know, they're going to, and then even for the private practitioners that want to apply for fiat, they would understand that when you apply for a fiat, you know, sometimes people apply for fiat to stall matters. They apply for fiat just to stall matters. So you know that when you apply for a fiat, no court will tolerate all those things that we bring before the court for adjournment. So it's very beneficial.
Okay.
Very beneficial.
So what could be improved or done different in a way you have been doing it or implementing in Nigeria? Any recommendation?
Well, when we went into the program, one of the things we did not seriously dwell in was capacity building for our members. We did not critically look at it and its impact. But when we sat down as an organization and looked at it, we realized that this is a law that affects every Nigerian. And so in our own group, we should ensure that it affects every member. And of course, you know how programs go, small circles, you don't carry, but what we are doing is expanding the front to ensure that everybody is carried along in terms of the provisions of this law. So maybe next time we'll look at serious
Capacity
issues like
building
this, capacity building for everybody.
And in addition, we have also amplified the provisions that affects women and children in
Yes.
this our training manual, in line with the mandate of FIDA Nigeria to protect, preserve, and promote the welfare of women and children in Nigeria. So I don't think there is any other organization among the grantees of Makato on this On Nigeria project that is trying to use this law to promote gender equality and empowerment in Nigeria.
And you know that female lawyers are scattered everywhere. You walk into various establishments, they are there.
Yeah.
So we expect that they take their knowledge to their various organizations.
Okay. Thank you very much. Is there anything else you want to tell us? Otherwise, I've exhausted. Thank you very much.
And we're happy being involved in the project.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Yeah, thank you for your time and insights. It's been a very rich conversation. All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.